Are you ready to stop the self-sabotage and create the life you desire? Well, in order for that to happen, you need to break free from the bad beliefs that are holding your success hostage. You need to optimize the stress by turning it into extra energy for success. And those hurtful habits? Well, we need to give that pain a purpose for progress. Welcome to Stop the Self-Sabotage and Create the Life You Desire podcast. Welcome to the National Guild of Hypnotists St. Louis virtual chapter, where we get together every month and discuss ways, tips, tools, and techniques that we can assist our clients in living the life that they dream and they desire quicker, faster, and easier. I am the moderator for tonight, not because I have any special powers, but simply because I'm the only one who took the position when it came open. So whether you're attending this live or you're catching the virtual replay, tonight's focus is on spiritual hypnosis, how to bring out the goddess or Adonis in our clients. So what are we going to cover tonight? We're going to cover just what is spiritual hypnosis, the different aspects and different ways that it can show up, how to make sure that your client is going to get the experience that is going to bring them the most benefit, some of the pitfalls of this type of session that you need to watch out for, and how to bring it all together in a plan of action that is going to continue to encourage your client's progress. So the National Guild of Hypnotists, which is the largest sanctioning body in the world, believes that there is room for all sorts of beliefs. And that includes using hypnosis, whether it might be for behavioral modification, stopping smoking, reducing weight, managing stress, peak performance, maybe with athletic abilities or presentations, or on the spiritual side. And that can encompass things that you might think of whenever you hear of spiritual hypnosis, maybe past life regressions. Now, is that really a thing? I don't know personally. I do know that one of the pioneers in the field, Dr. Weiss, has done a great deal of evidence-based research and has put out a number of books, one of them known as Lives Between Lives, that would support that premise. But it can go beyond just going to the past. You can also look at it as far as revealing anything that is going to bring our clients additional life. It's going to be able to enhance what they're experiencing. So Traci, I want to ask you, when you think of spiritual hypnosis as a certified hypnotist, what do you think of?
Meeting angel guides, talking to them.
Okay, so that would be a type of session that we call GTA, Guides, Teachers, Angels. So connecting with what the client feels is a higher energetic, something that has insight and wisdom beyond the client. So connecting with that and seeing what that energy can share with our client. And so, yeah, that's just another way to say that this type of session can bring in to our client what it is that they might have been missing because they just didn't have a big enough picture on it. Now, Traci, let me ask you, what questions might you have around doing a spiritual hypnosis session, or what tips or techniques have you may have used in the past to assist your clients with this type of session?
I have not done a session with a client, but in my mind, I would guide them to a place that they would meet the guide,
Mm-hmm.
and then having them talk to them.
Okay, yes. Okay, so what Traci just said, for those of you who are listening to this replay, is putting them in a place where they can connect with that energy. And that's one of the things that you want to make sure that you set up for this type of session, is what's known as a secure zone. So it's typically an outdoor setting, maybe a garden. I like to call it the Garden of Growth, but it is something that has very clear boundaries to it. One of the ways that I'll introduce it is there might be a babbling brook on one side, and that whatever energetic that you might be introducing them to has to stay on the other side of the boundary. So that way we're not concerned about anything that they may not feel comfortable with coming into their internal space. They have complete control over what comes in and goes out, and they can still communicate internally with that type of energy across a boundary, such as a brook, or a fence. And then you can ask the client if they feel like it's all right to bring this energy into their space, into their sacred space, before you just go ahead and introduce something that might hold some sort of painful memory that they need to observe instead of reliving. You want to make sure that on Aaron's depth scale that you keep them at a level 3 or above. So that's going to be a 1, 2, or 3, to where they are in observing mode. You do need to be careful that they don't slip to a level 4, 5, or 6 without your direction, where they'll go into a reliving. It's no different than if you were to perform forensic hypnosis and regressing a client back to a crime to see if you can bring through additional details. You always want them observing it, because if they slip into reliving and there was pain attached, they're going to experience that pain again. So yes, you're correct, Traci, as far as making sure that there is some sort of secure place for them to experience this. Another tip that I have for you is that keep in mind, this is what's known as a revelation session. It is not a transformation session. So a transformation session, if you were to think of a butterfly that is going from caterpillar to cocoon to then emerging in its full magnificence, that would be a transformation session. And you can utilize hypnosis for transformation, as far as there was a bad habit that the client was dealing with, and now we're utilizing that bad habit as a stepping stone for the client's next level of success. Maybe they started smoking when they were a teenager because they wanted to be the leader in the group of kids that they hung out with. And so here it is decades later, and you're trying to take away those cigarettes. Well, the cigarettes mean that I'm a leader. And so taking away that habit, the personality feels like you're taking away part of its leadership competency. So we need to find other ways for them to be a leader. That's transformation. You're transforming the habit into something that is actually going to help a client. That is not this type of session. When you're doing spiritual hypnosis, whether it might be, as Traci was talking about, GTAs, guides, teachers, and angels, whether it might be some sort of regression, maybe a past life regression, or as I'm going to be talking about in just a moment, maiden, mother, and crone session. You want to, number one, make sure that you secure them in a place where they're in complete control of their internal environment, deciding what energy comes in. And this is to reveal the wisdom or the insight that they already have a connection to. They're just not aware. That's the difference between transformation and revelation with these types of sessions. So a revelation, it says that they've already have a connection with this guide, with this teacher, with something in the past or in their future. And what we're doing is bringing it into conscious awareness to be able to improve the quality of their life. Traci, do you have any questions on that part?
Um, it's mostly dialogue, is it not, that you're trying to have it come out, correct?
Good point on that. And it depends on what type of spiritual session that you're doing. So if you're doing a spiritual session to where you are introducing them to a GTA, guide, teacher, or angel, and you're asking for some sort of message to come through, you can ask for a dialogue, but sometimes that won't always show up. Or it'll come through, but the client won't tell you what's going on. So they've got the messages that they're internalizing, but they don't want to share those messages with you. So you do not need to be able to know what the client is experiencing. You just want to be able to ask them, are they getting confirmation on a message? Is that message coming through? And then you want to make sure that you're giving the suggestions that they will remember what that message was, because we know that if they go on Aaron's depth scale to a level 4 or deeper, amnesia will begin to take place. So they'll have this overall sensation that something phenomenal happened during the session, but they won't always remember what it was. So we need to make sure that we're giving suggestions that the memory will continue to come through for them. And typically 72 hours after the session, they will continue to bring through additional details on it. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
So just basically give them a post-hypnotic to for it to remember something that's maybe an ordinary everyday thing for them that they encounter anyways throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Or if they're a spiritual person and they have a specific religion, if they have a cross or something, so if they want that guidance to go back to that cross or rosary, and that guidance would come through with a message, come through something specific to the spiritual for them is a possibility.
Yeah, definitely. And so what you're looking there then is a trigger and an anchor. Mm-hmm. So something that is going to trigger continued awareness of the message that came through, and that way they're able to not only remember more of what they experienced with you, but they're also able to go back into that state to bring through additional wisdom. So you can always use the suggestions. For example, if they brought up that they have prayer time or meditation time, and they bring that up in the intake, you ask them where they pray or meditate, and then you can say, when you pick up that rosary, as you said, or maybe whenever you go to your meditation cushion, that as you take in a nice few deep, easy breaths, you're going to find that it's easy to go back into this place where you can bring additional information through. And you'll not become hypnotized, but you will be able to access more of the communication that you've started here today. Okay. There's also another type of session, which is known as maiden mother crone. And this can be a very simple session that would still be considered a spiritual session because of its revelation nature. But this is typically somebody that wants to move into peak performance in an area of their life. They feel like they already possess the skills, but those skills are laying dormant, that they're not being activated. They're not in the correct environment for them to come out. And so they want to discover what it is that they need to have happen to make it easier to bring out this aspect of their personality. And so that's the personality that we typically would call the crone or the wise woman. So Mother, Maiden, Crone is the trinity that represents the three different areas of personality aspects and energy. So we have the youthful younger us, sometimes the child or young teenager. So that'll be maiden. Then we have who we are right now, mother, which that mother aspect is there's something in my life I want to give birth to. I want to create. And then we've got crone, which is the future aspect of us that holds wisdom. It's that future self that then can make us aware of what it is that we need to know to be able to move down that journey, to move down to that path and to that realization of that dream. You can use parts therapy for this type of session. Typically, when we have something that we want to activate in a client's life, something that they want to experience, whether it might be finances, it might be untapped potential, maybe wanting to present, it might be something along the lines of, that they feel like that there's a mission, a vision, a purpose, and a path that they want to experience. A lot of times we'll go into what we call that inner advisor, higher self, or higher soul self. And we'll see about activating that. But that wisdom could definitely be more beneficial if first we go to the past and we go to the maiden and we release that youthful energy that is going to be needed for that goal for moving forward. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So taking our client to the past, so if you have somebody that wants to turn on peak performance, they feel like they're called to be an author and that they want to be able to write motivational books and presentations, things like that, then you can go back to their past and ask for the part of them that had that dream at some point, but that dream was stopped because of some sort of pain in their life. So you can then release them from that pain and release the energy that they're going to need, because hey, turning our dreams into reality, we know is going to take additional energy. It's going to take additional resourcefulness on our part. And then after that, you can introduce them to the crone, that higher self, that soul self that has the wisdom of what they need to know for their path. What I like to do is then bring them together, all three of them, who they are right now, then the younger them, as well as the one from their past, and have the younger them step in to who they are now. And so now they're holding that energy. Who they are right now is the container for that youthful energy and enthusiasm. And then they step into the crone aspect, because now wisdom and everything that that higher self or that soul self symbolized to them, they're now stepping into that identity and taking on that container, which it's like nesting dolls. Now it's going to embody all of them. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that is, with your skill set, a very simple session that you could be doing that would make it so much easier for your clients to be able to achieve the results that they're looking for, because they've got the energy, but they've also got the wisdom that is being held for them. What other questions or comments might you have on doing spiritual sessions?
Comment is just in my head right now. It doesn't have to be anything like an angel guide teacher. It could just be anything. I mean, spiritual doesn't mean spiritual. Praying, right?
Right. That
Okay.
is correct. Yes. So anything that would hold the wisdom of what it is that they need to experience. Okay. So whatever term that they use, inner advisor, guide, higher self, their future self, those are the terms that you can use.
Okay.
Any other questions on that?
Nope.
You brought up something really interesting as far as the communication and the dialogue. A lot of times whenever our clients are communicating with these types of energies, they actually are not, whatever they're communicating with, it doesn't always use the spoken word, but it can use symbols. So I ask for their higher self to give them a gift. Give them a gift of something that is going to remind them, our client, of the power that they possess and the ability that they have to turn their potential into progress. And so receive a gift. I've had it to where it's been a word that they were given, almost like something they could repeat, that it was a mantra, or there was a certain color. They were given a book, or a stone, a music box. A lot of things can come through, and it's going to be dependent on what symbolism is attached to that based on our client. So with the music box, that was something that her father had given her when she was younger, before he passed away. And so every time she looked at it, it reminded her of the great memories of her youth. And so I asked her after the session, what do you think the music box means for you? And she said that, I know that he's always around me, that he can comfort me and guide me, but it's also a reminder that I can't live off of just memories, that I need to continue to move on. So you can also ask them to give you, or for that higher energetic, to give them some sort of gift that would embody the communication that they're receiving. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Any other questions or comments you might have?
I learned about hypnotic enhancers through someone. Is that
Yeah.
would be something you could do as well, or
So give an example of a hypnotic enhancer that Randy gave you.
well, she gave it a physical gift. So anytime they had a wrist, she had one of those wrist things, live, love, whatever. So that would have been in the session. You reached out to them and said, I'm giving you this gift, and then they put it on, as goal. But I know other hypnotic enhancers, within the session with some music, some song or something that you give them a song if they listen to it. Or if they heard it.
You could definitely do that. The best hypnotic enhancer is asking the client to come up with their own.
Okay.
Because that way it has more meaning. But if you want to add something onto it, like giving them a gift as far as that bracelet, that wristlet that they would wear, and that every time they looked at it or felt it, it would be a reminder, you could most definitely do that. We just have to be careful that if they misplace it, they don't misplace their ability to connect with that higher part of them. It's kind of like a hockey player that they are some of the most superstitious people out of all of the sports out there. And if they're on a winning streak, you'll hear crazy things like, can't wash my underwear. It's like, are you kidding me? And all of a sudden then the wife can't take it anymore and she washes it, and the hockey player cannot play a decent game because his touchstone, what he anchored his success to, was then gone the next time he was supposed to take the ice. So we want to make sure that if we attach it to something, that it's an enhancement, that it is not a replacement, that they're the ones that hold the power and the ability. Definitely. What other questions?
And then their own item that you give them as an enhancer that they pick themselves. That not, if they decide to, sell it, then they don't lose it too.
Yeah, and this is the reason why just asking them to pick a keyword and a color and a sound to go with that keyword. If it were a color, if it were a word, if it were a sound, what would it be? So using the post-hypnotic if it were, and then that is something they can take with them wherever they go. Any other questions or comments?
You would say that would be probably more powerful for them than a physical object.
Not necessarily, because what we attach a lot of meaning to the physical objects around us. The challenge is, if you can't get a hold of the physical object, does that mean that you can't get a hold of your spirituality? It's like someone who is very invested in that rosary or that Bible, and then all of a sudden they can't find it. Oh no, now I can't talk to my higher power. So we want to make sure that they hold the authority within themselves. But if we do bring in an outside object, it is to enhance it. It's not to replace that position of power. Any other questions or comments on that?
No.
Okay, so let's talk about abreactions. An abreaction, for the hypnotists that are listening to this, as we know, is an abnormal reaction. It simply is a stress release. It can show up as sneezing a whole hooping bunch of times in a row, or coughing, or all of a sudden it seems like their legs get very restless. Most frequently it shows up as tears. It is simply the body releasing stress. That's all it is. So you can have an abreaction during these types of sessions because they can be very emotional for the client. So if they're crying, tell them to just easily wipe their eyes and continue going on with the session, giving them suggestions that whatever they're letting go of is helping them to feel refreshed and renewed. If you feel that they're beginning to sob rather heavily, then you can say, you know what, just take the next few seconds without the sound of my voice to allow yourself to breathe deeply. And as you exhale gently, you're letting go of all those challenges that you've been experiencing. And then give them 15, 20, maybe even 30 seconds without the sound of your voice for them to experience the release and then come back into a state of composure. This is not something that you necessarily need to bring them up to an aware state. There is a hypnotist in the area that if someone starts crying or even looks like they might cry, she brings them up to an aware state and says, oh, looks like you've been traumatized. We better not go there. And she's actually creating more challenges than what she's resolving. So know that abreactions can happen. You can also have a rapture moment with your client. I only had one experience this, but it was very notable. If you go back into Christian experiences with the saints, they will be talking about rapture moments when their entire body was flooded with light and love. You'll read the description and you'll go, well, that sounds kind of interesting, because it will mimic an orgasmic state, that they will be that happy. They can also be rather loud. It almost felt like the Harry met Sally moment in the movie, because whenever my client was finished and walked out of the office where I was located at that time inside a resource center, there were two other women standing there going, whatever she had, we would like to have someplace. So you can have a client that spontaneously experiences a rapture moment. If that happens, do not allow it to surprise you. It's just, that's how phenomenal they're feeling. You'll just need to ask them if they can find the volume button in their mind and begin to turn that dial down just a little bit on how loud things are getting. And it typically only lasts a couple of minutes, and then you can go on with the session. So whether we're going from tears all the way to an orgasmic state and in between, what they're experiencing is something that can help them let go of what's been weighing them down and then lift them up to higher levels. Traci, comments or suggestions on that?
Okay, my comment is, one, I forgot about all the different types of abreactions, and I had a client who did a couple sessions, and they coughed somewhere in the session each time. And I guess in my mind, I thought they came out of the hypnosis, but I still continued, so, but in the back of my mind, I would keep saying, like, no, they're not, they didn't come out, even though I'm like, yeah, they did. I could swear they came out, because they're talking to me, coughing, I'm sorry, that type of thing. I'm like, so it's like.
Okay, so how to handle that moving forward. Okay, so if you have someone that begins to cough quite frequently, if we were to look at the mind-body connection and say, okay, well, it might be a tickle in their throat, that maybe we're doing a part of the session that is helping them find their power and speaking up for what they need. Or maybe it's their lungs being able to take in enough breath that's going to sustain them, that they have a right to take in that type of life force and life energy. So if I have someone that coughs once or twice, okay, no big deal. But if it seems like there's something that they're trying to maybe expel or take in a deep enough breath, I'll encourage them simply by going, you know what? Whatever you're experiencing right now with the coughing, it's here to assist you. I don't know if it's because you need to let go of something or if it's just because you're learning on how to take something in a way that it's going to sustain you. But you allow that coughing to occur as long as you need to be able to do that while I continue talking to you and delivering the suggestions that are going to help you be and feel your very best. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I would like to let people know, I don't have my clients recline based upon my office setup. They are having an upright chair with a pillow supporting behind their head, so they're more in an upright position. So if they're leaning forward, that's a possibility, and that's when I noticed them starting to cough, was their leaning head forward.
So if they do that, then you can ask them, and go ahead, just easily lift your shoulders up, roll them back, move your head back, open that chest, and just to feel yourself being able to breathe so much easier. So just ask them to change their position if you feel that that might be one of the physical indicators of the abreaction.
Okay.
All righty. So yes, there are a lot of different types of abreactions. What we want to do is we want to use everything that the client presents to us. Everything that is happening, we want to be able to use that in the session. We don't make it wrong. We don't make it right. We just say it's there for a reason. Ericksonian hypnosis, it's there for a reason. Let's use it. And then the last thing we want to do is we want to be able to send our client home with a plan of action that actually feels like it is going to continue to support them in the revelations that they experienced. So one of the things that I like to do is remind my clients after their session is over with, when we're doing the wrap up, that communication with this higher self can continue for up to 72 hours after the session, even longer, if they take the appropriate steps to make sure that it continues on both sides, but that for 72 hours after the session, they can still get additional insight during times of repetitive activities or daydreaming. So for them to use those times, if they find themselves doing laundry or doing the dishes, it's okay for them to go, hey, higher self, if you've got anything else that I need to know, hey, go ahead. I'm listening, because it's easy to listen when you're doing a repetitive activity like that, or drifting off to sleep, or waking up in the morning. Those are both times when we will go through the hypnopompic or hypnagogic stages of hypnosis. We're still open to suggestion. It's easier to experience the things from the subconscious, which is the conduit for these types of energies. So letting them know to continue the conversation for 72 hours afterwards, reminding them that they have an authoritative post-hypnotic. They have a keyword, they have a color, they have a sound that will also introduce more wisdom for them coming through whatever energetic that they're experiencing. And reminding them that they need to take action as quick as possible on the wisdom that came through. So whatever was showing up for them, that within 24 hours, they need to do something to incorporate it, or the higher self that brought the energy through will say, well, they're really not interested in using this for their life to be better. So there's no need to continue to give them the knowledge on how to do it. So reminding our clients that they need to take action. Any questions or comments on that?
Okay. As far as the written plan of action as their reminder to take them home, as part of that. But I really liked what you and Drew had done in the past with my sessions, that when you're bringing them out of the hypnosis, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, into an aware state, that you're constantly putting those things in those steps as a reinforcement. And then again, whenever you talk to us within that 10-minute time frame, when we are in a conscious state of mind, because we're really still in hypnosis within that 10 minutes. So you kind of keep going over that. So it was very effective.
And you're right, is that as we emerge a client into an aware state, we continue to reinforce, because the subconscious mind learns through repetition, as well as the 10 minutes that they're back to an aware state, that we continue that reinforcement by going, okay, and let's just go over what you discovered in the session, because all of that will allow them to remember fully what they experienced. And just like you and I were talking at the beginning, that amnesia can take place without suggestion. So we want to make sure that we counteract that by giving them the reinforcement that they will remember everything that has taken place. You got it. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah.
All right. So I want to thank the people that joined us for this presentation on spiritual hypnosis, whether you're a hypnotist or a lay person, that now you can have additional insight on what this type of session might be able to do for you. And I hope you're able to join us for our next upcoming NGH St. Louis virtual chapter meeting, where we'll be talking about additional ways where you can bring yourself out at your very best.